Hello and welcome to this episode of In Conversation With, where today I'm joined by six-time Formula One world champion, Mercedes-AMG PETRONAS Formula One driver, Lewis Hamilton. Lewis, great to see. It feels like a lifetime ago that I last saw you. So I guess I'll start off. How are you going?
I'm great. This is actually probably the first time that I can remember that I've been in one place for a long, for 6 weeks. It's very, very unusual, considering we're just always on the road. You're always moving. We're always on to the next thing. And obviously, once the season starts, it just never stops with moving about and traveling. So getting accustomed to the fact to being in one spot, that's taken some getting used to. But I've really, found that I've got my feet on the ground and feel very centered and excited about the next day. Every day I wake up and excited about the sunrise, excited about the sunset, and then obviously what I get to do in the day and training and just trying to keep my mind as fresh and focused as possible.
You mentioned training there, and one of the things people have started talking about is the lockdown 10 or the quarantine 10 of people putting weight on as they're stuck at home. But I saw your Instagram. Doesn't look like you're suffering too much. Looks like the training's still pretty focused.
Yeah, I'm definitely not putting on weight. I think my weight's probably stayed around the same. I'm just having this time is giving me, it gives you more time to focus on things, on the areas of weakness. So there's tedious things like calf muscles and doing, calf exercises, which is not exciting. Glute exercises, which again are quite boring, but all really important, because I think ultimately over time your body forms into a shape and into a pattern. There's strengths and weaknesses on all of our bodies, and when you go to the gym, often you work the big muscles, but not necessarily the small ones in between. And so really trying to get in deep and really try to refine my body, and again just trying to find the next level. How can I be fitter than I was? Even the start of the season, I was feeling great, and it's crazy because we obviously it's a shame we didn't get to start, but this has been a real decent time to be able to focus on trying to improve on other areas.
I was going to ask you about that because over all the seasons you've competed in Formula One, just as we got a glimpse of the sort of where you were mentally at the start of this season, as we saw you through testing, you seemed like a boxer who'd kind of made weight and was ready to fight and ready for that first bell. It must be so frustrating that you didn't get a chance to show all of the work you've put in over winter, yourself and the team, with W11 to be ready when the lights went out in Melbourne.
I don't think it's not that it was frustrating. I think it really, really was a shock to the system. Obviously on that Thursday, as I had commented, my opinion of whether or not we should have been there. And then to wake up the next day, honestly, with excitement that I'm going to be getting in the car, and then to hear that we're not going to be going to the track, it was very, very surreal. And we weren't quite sure whether it was going to happen. And then you missed practice 1, and then practice 2 went, and then qualifying went. But I stayed there through the weekend, and it was tough, because this is the first time in, it's my 14th year or 14th season. So I just every year know how to get straight into the zone. I know what preparation needs. I know how to be there and ready for that first race, so that we start off better than ever. And each year you're refining it a little bit to try and make sure you arrive even better and start on the right foot. And we didn't get to race, so it was definitely a difficult few days. And then again, following on from that, it's just having something that you love so much kind of not taken away from you, but it's not happening at the moment. I miss driving, but as I said, I think you have to look at it at the positives, and I think if you look around the world, the skies are clearer. I think people probably appreciating this time more, their families more, their relationships more. There's so many things to come out of this. And I really hope that we all can grow from this experience. And I hope it passes soon.
You say the skies are clearer, but I think the big thing for me is I'm actually looking at the sky as well. I'm finding there's time to do that where maybe there wasn't in quite the same way before. And I thought of you the other day, and you sort of briefly touched on this, but we met first of all in 2007, your first season in F1. I thought since then, whether it be the team and the racing, Formula One, the fans, or the other projects you do, your time is in so much demand. You're probably the busiest person I know, for some by choice and some through career. But I wondered how you were feeling at the moment in the fact that suddenly the phone's gone a bit quieter than it might be normally, and whether you miss that buzz or whether you're really, I guess having time to recenter and rethink that you haven't maybe had before.
Well, I'm generally a very quiet person, so I do enjoy me time, and I think it's really important for all to have that. And I think, but I'm a workaholic, so I love once you get into the rhythm, you're just moving, just one thing to the next, and squeezing your training, making sure that you're trying to find the right balance. And oh man, I love that challenge, and the year goes so quickly. It's been nice not to be bothered too much, as I said, to have a bit of that time. But I miss seeing my team. I miss seeing my friends, as everyone does. But it's in some ways, I looked at it at the beginning, and I was thinking, wow, this is actually, there have been times in my, probably in the past 5 years or so, that I had thought to myself, it would be good for my body and for my mind to take a rest for a year, but you can't step away. I don't think that for an athlete that's in their prime, that is ever a good thing to step away for a year and then come back. Technology moves so fast at such a rate. For me to stay on top of this car and what is the development, to take a sabbatical is just not on the cards. So, but we've been handed almost half, a part sabbatical, which I'm enjoying. And I feel fresher and healthier than I've ever been. And the struggle is for everyone, I think, is just keeping my mind clear. I think some days you're sluggish, and then other days you're positive. But I think that's really the key, is really, as I said, trying to remain centered, find things that you enjoy doing that you perhaps didn't have time to do in the past. Don't waste this time. I think that's the really important thing, is not to waste this time.
It would be easy to look back and have procrastinated, but I say you're someone who typically fills their time. What is it that you found that's come back in? Is it, I know you've jumped online, I think, a bit of Call of Duty and maybe a bit of Gran Turismo, music. What is it that you've been doing outside of the training work you've been doing?
I've always wanted to learn a language, and I still don't know any other languages. And it's embarrassing, I feel, when people ask, and I think it's probably similar for many people who only speak one language. I aced French at school, is the only thing I aced, and so going on this online course. And the thing is, the course that I have is like a 6-week course, and you're supposed to do half an hour a day. And when I do things, I just do it to an extreme. So I sit down and I do a week in 2 hours, basically. Just do 1 week a day. So I was already at I think I was on week 4 by the 4th day, and my mind was I was so stressed, and I wasn't enjoying it. So then I stopped for like a week or so, and then I'm trying to get back into it. So that's one of the things, as I said, the training. I do a bit of gaming. It's interesting. Gaming is, as you see, a lot of the drivers, I'm not really interested in much driving simulated racing, but Gran Turismo and Sony, they did send me a whole setup, and there's this thing that I grew up playing Gran Turismo and spending hours to earn the money and to buy all these cars, and it was really a great opportunity to do something with them. And so I've been working with them the last couple of years, and I got to do this challenge, beat my time kind of thing. So I've been racing myself, trying to beat my own laps and stuff, and it's been frustrating as hell because my laps are pretty decent, I think. And so that's been one thing. And then I played on Call of Duty with Pierre Gasly and who else? Charles Leclerc. And then otherwise, just there's been a lot of time to be on calls with people FaceTime actually, because through the year you're mostly messaging with people. So a lot of FaceTime with individuals you've not had long conversations with. So one of my closest friends, best friend Jan, we had like a 4-hour FaceTime conversation the other day, which we rarely ever get to do. I think it's probably the first time in years that we've had that long of like a conversation on the phone. And otherwise, just putting in plans, trying to understand what I want to do in the future. You have all this time, so you have a lot of time to think of what's next. There's so many ideas, there's so many things you can do. Obviously, you can't do everything, although I like to try and do everything. And so a lot of planning and strategy, moving around, trying to understand how my personal team works, and if it's efficient. What can we do moving forwards in terms of moving the sport green, pushing for diversity? There's so many things to do. So that's really what I'm trying to focus on.
It's funny, in Formula One, we spend so much time looking forwards and so rarely have a chance to look back. And I just imagine it must be so crazy growing up playing Gran Turismo. You can go on there and drive one of your own world championship winning cars. That must just be, I can't imagine how that must feel. It's normally, for most people, it's just a game, but that's quite profound, really.
Honestly, it's one of the coolest things. Naturally growing up playing Formula One games, and couldn't wait till one day that I had my car on there. And then what happened is, once I got to Formula One, I actually never played. I didn't play any racing games, particularly like Formula One. I don't know why. But yeah, in this game, obviously, fortunately, I didn't have to work to earn my car, because it would have taken me.
Be expensive.
Yeah, so they sent me some credit and I bought the car, and it's incredible to think that it's come a long way, and now the car that my team and I have helped evolve and build over the years is in this game that people can earn and get to go and drive. So I think with simulators though, I never drive the simulator, very, very rarely. I think with simulators it's very, very difficult because you don't have the movement is never perfect, and it's something they're constantly trying to improve on, these simulations out there. And obviously, if you're at home with a simulator, the seat doesn't move, so you have your mind's telling you that the car is moving, but you're not getting any cueing of movements. And so when your mind, you have to kind of override your mind, and I don't really like doing that. Going through that process, and then you get in the real thing, and it's completely different. I don't find it personally any benefit whatsoever doing a simulation thing, but the actual fun gaming side of things, where you get to play with friends and people online, that's a fun stage.
Talking of getting to drive amazing cars, I think I've got to mention that you've had the opportunity on multiple occasions, but one in particular I think of, to drive the W196, of course, was with Sir Stirling Moss at Monza. And I think we can't have a chat today without talking about really your memories of that day, because what an incredible car, but more importantly, what an amazing man.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple of chances to, I've been with Mercedes since 1997. So over that time, I've particularly, obviously, once I got to Formula One, I got to experience a few of the cars. And there was that particular day where I got to spend a few hours with Sir Stirling in Monza, and the car is, it's mind-blowing when you think of how it's all evolved. The technology back then was amazing, but so basic compared to what we have today. And just having conversations with people like him, who were, clearly we have something in common. We love racing. We have quite a bit in common, actually. And so we would get on like a house on fire, and he would tell me things of such, like, there's no seatbelt in the car. It's just a cushion, not particularly comfortable cushion. And your legs are spread because the pedals are on the pedals are separated quite a bit by like almost a meter.
The drive frame runs through your legs, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. And he would be like, he would say, oh, you would hope that if you crash, you fall out. You hope that you get thrown out. And it's just a different way of thinking to what you would think today. You want to be safe, and today it's all about wearing a seatbelt and having that protection. As where back then they were like, you don't want to get stuck in that car because you get burnt alive or crushed or whatever it is. So I remember driving on the bank of the circuit Monza, and I didn't want to wear a helmet because obviously the helmet today that we have is much different to back then. Back then they basically had almost like a hard builder's cap on with the goggles, and so I just wore my cap, and then I got the feeling of the air going past my face, and just trying to make it as realistic as possible. And then I could see him to the right, and I felt for a brief moment that I was in his time, and I was driving alongside just such a legend. Yeah. And God rest his soul.
Yeah, amazing driver, first British winner of a British Grand Prix, and obviously a mantle that you've carried on so far, and hopefully we continue to do. And I suppose to kind of wrap up the chat in some ways, we'll hopefully be racing, fingers crossed, sooner rather than later, and we finally get to see what W11 and you can do this year. But it sounds like in Europe anyway, it'll be behind closed doors and without fans. And whilst we'll all love seeing racing again, will be a real different experience.
It gave me a really empty feeling because the fans really make that race. And then, it's just, around the world, all the races we go to, the more fans there, the more atmosphere you have. That's why you have places like Silverstone and Monza. And so it's going to be very empty. But, what's great is, I'm getting messages from people around the world who are struggling during this period because they're not getting to watch sports. And it just shows how significant sport is in people's lives. It brings us all together, and it's so exciting and captivating. And so I don't know how exciting it's going to be for people watching on TV, but it's going to be better than nothing. But as I said, for us, it's going to be like a test day. And probably even worse than a test day in the sense where on the test day, there's not a huge amount of people in Barcelona that come to watch, but there are still some. So right here, you're going to have nobody in the crowd, and you're just going to see empty seats as you're driving down. But racing is racing, and I really do. As I said, I've not really had. I don't think any of us have had enough time to really truly unleash the potential of our cars. And so yeah, I'm excited to get back in. I really, really do miss it. And as I said, this has been it's almost a blessing on one side because it gives you even more appreciation for the things that you love and the things that you do. And this has given me more energy and inspiration and determination to keep delivering and keep working with this great team. And so I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, well, I think for all of us, we can't wait to see motor racing again. I think whether we're at track or on TV, it's going to be a real privilege to watch you guys going out to race. And I hope that it's an even bigger threat, that an even more rested Lewis Hamilton will be even more dangerous than he's been before out on track. Lewis, been really good to catch up, mate. Great to see you looking so well, and look after yourself, stay safe, and can't wait to see you on track, buddy.
Thank you, and you take care of yourself.